The moment I received the notification was surreal. I was sitting at my desk, the glow of the screen illuminating my face, when an email popped up. "Welcome to Tinder," it read. My heart raced as I clicked it open, only to find my wife's name linked to a profile I never knew existed. How could this be? I felt a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, confusion, and a strange sense of helplessness. I had always trusted her, and now, this digital betrayal felt like a knife to my gut. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Was this some kind of mistake? Maybe it was a prank, a glitch in the system. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The profile picture was unmistakably her, smiling, carefree, and radiating a warmth that I had always cherished. I felt a lump form in my throat as I read the brief bio she had crafted, filled with playful quips and flirtatious undertones. It was as if I was looking at a stranger, someone I didn't recognize. The woman I thought I knew was suddenly shrouded in layers of deceit. I could hear the faint sounds of the television in the background, the familiar theme song of our favorite show playing softly. It felt like a cruel joke, the juxtaposition of my reality against the backdrop of our shared life. I wanted to scream, to throw my laptop across the room, but instead, I sat frozen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I felt like I was in a dream, one where I was both the protagonist and the victim, trapped in a narrative I never wanted to be part of. How long had this been going on? I thought back to the last few months, searching for signs, clues that I had missed. Had she been acting differently? Had there been late nights at work or unexplained absences? I racked my brain, trying to piece together the puzzle, but all I found were fragments of memories that now felt tainted. The laughter we shared, the intimate moments, the plans we made for the future, all of it felt like a facade, a carefully constructed illusion that was now crumbling before my eyes. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I needed to think clearly. I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I had to investigate further. The thought of confronting her without solid evidence terrified me. What if I was wrong? What if this was all a misunderstanding? But the nagging feeling in my gut told me otherwise. I had to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I opened my email again, scanning for any additional notifications. There it was, a confirmation email, complete with a link to her profile. I clicked it, my heart pounding in my chest. The profile was everything I feared it would be. Pictures of her in various settings, each one more alluring than the last. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. How could she do this? How could she betray the trust we had built over the years? As I scrolled through the profile, I noticed the messages, flirty exchanges with other men, compliments that should have been reserved for me. Each notification felt like a dagger, twisting deeper into my heart. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead, I felt a cold numbness settle over me. This was my reality now, and I had to face it head-on. I closed the laptop, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I needed to confront her, but how? What would I say? I felt like a detective in a crime novel, piecing together clues, but this was my life, and the stakes were far higher than any fictional narrative. I was terrified of what I might uncover, but I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. The truth was out there, and I was determined to find it, no matter the cost. As I sat in the dim light of my office, I realized that this moment would change everything. The trust one had in her, the love we had built, all of it was now hanging by a thread. I felt a surge of determination rise within me. I would uncover the truth, and when I did, I would be ready to confront the woman I thought I knew. But for now, I was left with the haunting realization that my life was about to take a turn I never anticipated. The digital age had brought with it a new kind of betrayal, and I was about to dive headfirst into the depths of its implications. The hours that followed were a blur of confusion and disbelief. I paced the living room, my mind racing as I tried to process the reality of what I had discovered. The familiar surroundings of our home felt foreign, tainted by the knowledge that my wife was engaging in a secret life I had no idea about. I needed to investigate further, to peel back the layers of this betrayal and uncover the truth. I returned to my laptop, the screen still glowing with the remnants of the Tinder profile. I felt a mix of dread and determination as I clicked through the app, trying to understand how it worked. I had never used Tinder myself, but I had heard enough about it to know that it was a platform designed for casual encounters, a digital playground for those seeking fleeting connections. The thought of my wife, my partner, engaging in such behavior felt like a betrayal of everything we had built together. I took a deep breath and began to formulate a plan. I needed to gather evidence, to document everything I could find. I opened a new tab and started searching for articles about infidelity and the psychological effects of betrayal. I wanted to understand what I was dealing with, not just in terms of my wife's actions, but also in terms of my own emotional response. I read about the stages of grief that accompany betrayal: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I felt like I was standing at the precipice of that journey, teetering between denial and anger. As I delved deeper into the world of online dating, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions. I felt a strange sense of voyeurism as I scrolled through her messages, reading the flirty exchanges that had taken place between her and other men. Each notification felt like a punch to the gut, a reminder of the intimacy we once shared that was now being offered to strangers. I felt anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I also felt a sense of helplessness. How could I confront her without sounding paranoid or accusatory? I decided to take a more methodical approach. I created a document on my laptop, detailing everything I had discovered so far. I noted the dates of her messages, the names of the men she had been chatting with, and the content of their conversations. I felt like a detective piecing together a case, but the reality was that this was my life, and the stakes were far higher than any fictional narrative. As I continued my investigation, I couldn't help but reflect on our relationship. I thought back to the moments we had shared, the laughter, the late-night talks, the dreams we had for the future. How could she throw it all away for a few fleeting moments of attention? I felt a wave of sadness wash over me, mingling with the anger that was beginning to consume me. I had always believed that we were solid, that our love was unshakable. But now, I was left questioning everything. I decided to reach out to a friend for advice. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could provide a fresh perspective. I texted Mark, my closest confidant, and asked if he could meet up. I needed to unload my thoughts, to share the burden of this discovery with someone who could understand. As I waited for his response, I felt a sense of urgency building within me. I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. When Mark arrived, I could see the concern etched on his face. We settled into the living room, and I wasted no time in sharing my discovery. I recounted the email notification, the profile, and the messages I had uncovered. As I spoke, I could feel the weight of my emotions spilling out, the anger and sadness intertwining in a chaotic dance. "Dude, I can't believe this," Mark said, shaking his head in disbelief. "Have you confronted her yet?" "No," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't even know how to approach it. What if I'm wrong? What if this is all just a misunderstanding?" Mark leaned forward, his expression serious. "You need to gather more evidence before you confront her. You can't go in there without knowing the full story. It's too risky." His words resonated with me. I needed to be strategic, to approach this with a level head. I couldn't let my emotions dictate my actions. I nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. I would continue my investigation, gather more evidence, and then confront her when I was ready. As the evening wore on, I felt a strange sense of clarity begin to emerge from the chaos. I was no longer just a victim of betrayal, I was a man on a mission. I would uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I would confront my wife, and I would demand answers. But as I sat there, surrounded by the remnants of our life together, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. The digital age had brought with it a new kind of betrayal, and I was determined to navigate its treacherous waters, no matter the cost. The day of the confrontation arrived, and I felt a storm brewing inside me. I had spent the last few days gathering evidence, meticulously documenting every message, every interaction I had uncovered. I had rehearsed what I would say, how I would approach the conversation, but no amount of preparation could quell the anxiety that churned in my stomach. I was terrified of what would happen when I finally faced her, but I knew I couldn't put it off any longer. The truth demanded to be spoken. As I sat at the kitchen table, I could hear the sound of her footsteps approaching. She was humming softly, blissfully unaware of the turmoil that was about to unfold. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. This was it. I had to be strong. I had to confront her with the evidence I had gathered, but I also needed to remain calm. I didn't want to let my emotions take control. When she walked into the room, her smile lit up the space, but it felt like a dagger to my heart. How could she be so carefree when I was drowning in a sea of betrayal? I forced a smile in return, but I could feel the tension radiating from my body. She noticed something was off, her brow furrowing slightly as she took a seat across from me. "Hey, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I hesitated, searching for the right words. "We need to talk," I finally said, my voice steady but firm. Her expression shifted, a flicker of apprehension crossing her face. "About what?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "About your Tinder account." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I watched as her face paled. For a moment, she was silent, her eyes widening in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I received a notification linked to my email," I continued, my voice unwavering. "I saw your profile, the messages you've been exchanging. I know what you've been doing." Her reaction was immediate. She leaned back in her chair, her expression shifting from shock to defensiveness. "You're mistaken. That's not what you think it is." I felt a surge of anger rise within me. "Not what I think it is. I have the evidence right here." I gestured to the laptop, where I had pulled up the messages. "You've been flirting with other men, and I deserve to know why." She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, searching for a justification, a way to deflect the blame. "I didn't mean for you to find out," she finally said, her voice trembling. "It was just a silly thing. I didn't think it would matter." "Didn't think it would matter?" I echoed, incredulous. "You're talking about a betrayal of trust. How can you say it doesn't matter?" Her eyes filled with tears, and I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly pushed it aside. I couldn't let her emotions sway me. "You need to explain yourself," I demanded, my voice firm. "What were you looking for? What did you think you would find?" She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the table. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I guess I was feeling lonely. Things have been different between us lately, and I thought maybe I could find some excitement." "Excitement?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You thought cheating on me would bring excitement into your life? What about the excitement we used to have? What about the love we built together?" I know," she cried, her voice breaking. "But I felt neglected. I thought you didn't care anymore. I was just trying to feel something again." Her words struck a chord deep within me. I had sensed the distance growing between us, the subtle shifts in our relationship that had left me feeling uneasy. But I had never imagined it would lead her to seek validation from strangers. "So, instead of talking to me, you decided to go behind my back?" I asked, my voice trembling with hurt. "You chose to betray me instead of communicating?" "I'm sorry," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't mean to hurt you." The weight of her apology hung in the air, but it felt hollow. I wanted to believe her, to find solace in her remorse, but the betrayal was too deep. "You've shattered my trust," I said, my voice low and steady. "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again." She reached across the table, her hand trembling as she tried to grasp mine. "Please, don't say that. I love you. I made a mistake, but I want to fix this. I'll do anything." I pulled my hand away, the gesture feeling like a necessary boundary. "Love isn't enough when trust is broken," I replied, my heart heavy with the weight of my words. "You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed." The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the pain etched on her face, the realization of what she had done settling in. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, a tumultuous storm of emotions that threatened to consume me. I had wanted answers, but now that I had them, I was left grappling with the reality of our situation. "I need time to think," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't just forgive and forget. This changes everything." As I stood up from the table, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. The confrontation had been painful, but it was necessary. I had uncovered the truth, and now I had to face the consequences of her actions. I walked away, leaving her sitting there, tears streaming down her face, and I felt a part of my heart shatter into a million pieces. The days that followed the confrontation were a blur of emotions, each one more intense than the last. I found myself wandering through our home like a ghost, haunted by memories of a life that now felt irrevocably altered. The laughter that once echoed through the halls had been replaced by a heavy silence, and every corner of the house seemed to remind me of the betrayal I had uncovered. I was trapped in a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and confusion, struggling to make sense of it all. I spent hours sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the television, but I couldn't focus on anything. My mind was consumed by thoughts of her, of us. I replayed the confrontation over and over, dissecting every word, every emotion that had passed between us. I had wanted answers, but what I received felt like a hollow apology, a desperate plea for forgiveness that I wasn't sure I could grant. I thought back to the early days of our relationship, to the moments that had drawn us together. I remembered our first date, the way she had laughed at my jokes, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We had shared dreams and aspirations, building a future together that felt so bright and full of promise. But now, those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by the reality of her infidelity. I recalled the late-night talks we used to have, the way we would share our fears and insecurities. I had always believed that we were open with each other, that we could communicate anything. But now, I felt a deep sense of betrayal, as if the foundation of our relationship had been built on sand. How could she have hidden this from me? How could she have chosen to seek validation from strangers instead of coming to me? As I sat there, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, on being there for her through thick and thin. I had supported her dreams, celebrated her successes, and comforted her during tough times. But now, I was left questioning everything. Had I missed the signs? Had I been so wrapped up in my own life that I hadn't noticed her struggles? I picked up my phone, scrolling through our photos, searching for a glimpse of the happiness we once shared. There were pictures of us at the beach, laughing as the waves crashed around us, and snapshots of quiet moments spent together, wrapped in each other's arms. Each image felt like a dagger, a reminder of what we had lost. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I fought them back. I didn't want to cry, I wanted to be strong. But strength felt elusive. I found myself oscillating between anger and sadness, each emotion pulling me in different directions. I was angry at her for betraying my trust, for seeking comfort in the arms of others. But I was also angry at myself for not seeing the signs, for not being the partner she needed. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of confusion, struggling to keep my head above water. In the quiet moments, I began to reflect on the nature of love and trust. I had always believed that love was enough to weather any storm, that it could conquer all obstacles. But now, I was faced with the harsh reality that love alone wasn't enough. Trust was the bedrock of our relationship, and she had shattered it into a million pieces. I wondered if it was possible to rebuild what had been lost, or if we were destined to drift apart. I decided to reach out to Mark again, hoping that he could provide some clarity. We met at our favorite coffee shop, a place filled with memories of laughter and camaraderie. As I sat across from him, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I needed to talk, to share the burden of my thoughts with someone who understood. "Hey, man," Mark said, his expression serious. "How are you holding up?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know, honestly. I feel like I'm in a fog. One moment I'm angry, and the next I'm just sad. It's like I'm grieving the loss of something I thought was solid." Mark nodded, his eyes filled with empathy. That makes sense. You're going through a lot right now. It's normal to feel all those emotions at once. I just keep thinking about everything we've built together, I continued, my voice trembling. How could she throw it all away? I thought we were happy. Sometimes people don't realize what they have until it's gone, Mark said gently. It doesn't excuse her actions, but it might help you understand her mindset. She was looking for something she felt was missing. But why not talk to me? I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. Why seek comfort in strangers instead of coming to me? People often struggle to communicate their feelings, especially when they're feeling vulnerable, Mark replied. It's easier to hide behind a screen than to confront the reality of a relationship. But that doesn't make it right. I nodded, absorbing his words. I just don't know if I can ever trust her again. It feels like everything has changed. It has changed, Mark said, his tone firm. But that doesn't mean it's the end. You have to decide what you want moving forward. Can you see a path to rebuilding that trust, or is it too far gone? His question hung in the air, and I felt a wave of uncertainty wash over me. I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew I had to confront the reality of our situation. I had to decide whether I was willing to fight for our relationship or if it was time to let go. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to emerge from the chaos. I was still grappling with the pain of betrayal, but I knew I had to face it head-on. I had to confront my feelings, to explore the depths of my emotions, and ultimately, to decide what I wanted for my future. The journey ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to navigate it with honesty and integrity. I owed it to myself, and to her, to seek the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The aftermath of the confrontation settled over me like a heavy fog, obscuring my vision of the future. I had laid bare the truth, and now I was left to grapple with the consequences of my wife's betrayal. Each day felt like a battle, a struggle to navigate the emotional landscape that had shifted beneath my feet. I was caught in a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and sadness, unsure of how to move forward. In the days that followed, I found myself oscillating between moments of clarity and deep despair. I would wake up in the morning, the weight of the betrayal pressing down on me like a lead blanket. I would go through the motions of getting ready for work, but my mind was never fully present. I felt like a ghost, drifting through my own life, haunted by the memories of what we once had. At work, I struggled to concentrate. My colleagues noticed my distraction, but I brushed off their concerns with vague excuses. I didn't want to burden anyone with my pain. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of my own emotions. I would sit at my desk, staring blankly at the screen, my thoughts consumed by the turmoil at home. I couldn't escape the reality of my situation, no matter how hard I tried. When I returned home each evening, the silence was deafening. My wife would be there, her eyes filled with remorse, but I couldn't bring myself to engage with her. I felt a chasm between us, a divide that seemed insurmountable. She would try to reach out, to initiate conversations, but I found myself retreating further into my shell. I didn't want to hear her apologies. I didn't want to relive the pain of our confrontation. One evening, as I sat on the couch, I felt a wave of anger wash over me. I couldn't keep living like this, trapped in a cycle of hurt and resentment. I needed to confront her again, to lay bare my feelings and the decisions I was grappling with. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that lay ahead. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but firm. She looked up from her spot at the kitchen table, her expression a mix of hope and trepidation. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I gestured for her to join me on the couch, and as she sat down, I felt the tension in the air. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened," I began, my heart racing. "About us, about our relationship." Her eyes widened, and I could see the anxiety etched on her face. "I know I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I want to make things right. I'll do anything to earn your trust back." I held up a hand, cutting her off. "I appreciate that, but I need to be honest with you. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Her face fell, and I felt a pang of guilt, but I pushed it aside. You've shattered something that was so important to me. I thought we had a solid foundation, but now I'm left questioning everything. I don't know if I can rebuild that trust." "I understand," she said, her voice trembling. "But please, let me show you that I can change. I'll go to therapy, I'll do whatever it takes. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a flicker of hope. "Love isn't enough when trust is broken," I replied, my voice low. "You need to understand that. I need time to figure out what I want." She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'll give you space. I just hope you'll consider giving us another chance." As she spoke, I felt a wave of uncertainty wash over me. I wanted to believe her, to find solace in her words, but the pain of betrayal was still fresh. I needed to take a step back, to reflect on what I truly wanted. I couldn't make a decision based on emotions alone, I had to think rationally. In the days that followed, I found myself grappling with the concept of trust. What did it mean to trust someone? Could I ever truly trust her again after what she had done? I began to explore these questions, seeking answers within myself. I spent hours journaling, pouring my thoughts onto the page, trying to make sense of the chaos in my mind. I also sought solace in the support of friends. I met up with Mark regularly, sharing my thoughts and feelings as I navigated this tumultuous journey. He listened patiently, offering insights and encouragement as I worked through my emotions. "You have to do what's best for you," he reminded me. "Don't rush into a decision. Take your time." As I reflected on our relationship, I began to realize that it wasn't just about her betrayal, it was also about my own needs and desires. I had to consider what I wanted for my future. Did I want to fight for our relationship, or was it time to let go? The answers were elusive, but I knew I had to confront them head-on. One evening, as I sat on the couch, I felt a sense of clarity beginning to emerge. I realized that I had the power to shape my own future, to decide what was best for me. I didn't have to rush into a decision, I could take my time and explore my feelings. I could choose to prioritize my own well-being, even if it meant letting go of the relationship I had once cherished. As I sat there, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I was no longer just a victim of betrayal, I was a man reclaiming his agency. I would take the time I needed to heal, to reflect, and to ultimately decide what I wanted for my future. The journey ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to navigate it with honesty and integrity. The days turned into weeks, and as I continued to navigate the emotional landscape of my life, I found myself slowly emerging from the fog of betrayal. I had taken the time I needed to reflect, to confront my feelings, and to explore what I truly wanted for my future. The journey had been painful, but it had also been enlightening. I had learned more about myself than I ever thought possible. I spent countless hours journaling, pouring my thoughts onto the page, and seeking clarity in the chaos. I reflected on the love I had for my wife, the memories we had created together, and the dreams we had once shared. But I also confronted the reality of her betrayal, the deep wound it had inflicted on my heart. I realized that while love was a powerful force, it was not enough to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. One evening, as I sat on the couch, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I had made my decision. I would confront my wife one last time, not to seek reconciliation, but to find closure. I needed to articulate my feelings, to express the pain I had endured, and to let her know that I could no longer continue in a relationship built on broken trust. When I called her into the living room, I could see the apprehension in her eyes. She had been trying to give me space, but I knew she was also desperate for reassurance. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that lay ahead. "Thank you for coming," I began, my voice steady. "I wanted to talk to you about where we stand." Her expression shifted, a mix of hope and fear. "Okay. I'm ready to listen." I gestured for her to sit down, and as she did, I felt the weight of the moment settle over us. "I've spent a lot of time reflecting on our relationship and everything that's happened," I said, my heart racing. "And I've come to a conclusion." She leaned forward, her eyes wide with anticipation. "What is it?" I can't continue in this relationship, I said, my voice firm but gentle. The trust has been broken, and I don't believe it can be repaired. I need to prioritize my own well-being, and I can't do that while holding on to the pain of what you've done. Her face fell, and I could see the tears welling in her eyes. Please, don't say that. I love you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work. I know you love me, I replied, my heart aching for her. But love isn't enough when trust is gone. I need to take this step for myself, to heal and to move forward. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken words and emotions. I could see the realization settling in, the understanding that our relationship had reached a breaking point. I'm so sorry for what I did, she said, her voice trembling. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I said softly. But intentions don't erase the damage that's been done. I need to let go of the past so I can find a way to heal. As I spoke, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. I had made my decision, and while it was painful, it was also empowering. I was reclaiming my agency, choosing to prioritize my own well-being over the remnants of a relationship that had become toxic. I hope you find the happiness you're looking for, I continued, my voice steady. I truly do. But I can't be a part of your journey anymore. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I understand. I just wish things could have been different. Me too, I said, my heart heavy with the weight of our shared history. But this is the path I need to take. As I stood up to leave the room, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. I was closing a chapter of my life, but I was also opening the door to new possibilities. I had taken the necessary steps to prioritize my own healing, and while the journey ahead would be challenging, I was ready to embrace it. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I sought therapy to help me process the pain of betrayal and to explore my feelings in a safe space. I surrounded myself with supportive friends and family, leaning on them as I navigated the complexities of my emotions. I rediscovered hobbies that had fallen by the wayside, finding joy in the simple pleasures of life. As time passed, I began to heal. The pain of betrayal slowly transformed into a sense of empowerment. I realized that I had the strength to move forward, to create a life that was fulfilling and authentic. I learned to trust myself again, to believe in my own worth, and to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. While the scars of betrayal would always remain, they became a part of my story, a testament to my resilience and growth. I had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future with open arms. As I looked back on the journey I had taken, I felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons learned. I had discovered the importance of self-love, the power of communication, and the necessity of trust in any relationship. I was no longer defined by the betrayal, I was defined by my ability to rise above it. And as I stepped into the next chapter of my life, I did so with hope and determination, ready to embrace whatever came my way.